Morning, everyone. I think, as you said, the tone, Kavya, in terms of the pioneering growth and BFSI is probably the buzzword all across. Whether you talk about transformation, whether you talk about products, whether you talk about customer segment, investors running, to invest in this sector, and the regulators are really busy in terms of creating the right regulation to safeguard the customers buzzing with activity. And in the new India, if we feel that the sector that has to really get up and actually leverage the learning from the past and lead the growth for the country is indeed BFSI. We definitely need a very robust banking. We definitely need right coverage of insurance for all. We indeed need the right funds and to fuel the growth of the business all across, whether it is big or small or innovators or startup. And of course, we need to have disruptions, and we have all here. I am fortunate to have a very, very eminent panel, and without wasting any time on setting the context, I know the August House already know enough about that. Let me come with the first question to Vishakha. Having seen the industry on insurance side for 3 decades, she is really the right person to probably answer this question. Where do you think that 3 pillars, which is in terms of generating fund, which is all the bank, NBFCs, microfinance companies and things like that, we have the entire set of customers who are actually looking with a lot of expectations driven by experience and the stakeholders around insurance. Where do you see are the real wave of growth? 2, 3 things that comes to your mind, Vishakha.
Thank you. Thanks for that, and thanks for giving me the opening remarks, so to say. I think what you have been seeing is a stage of growth. You rightly mentioned, so I'll touch upon that I've been in the industry for more than 3 decades, 37 years in fact. And what you see is at a very high macro level, an economy which was known for its Hindu rate of growth, an economy which was known for predominantly savings, has moved to lending with a lot of focus on SME lending and a lot of focus in terms of the credit offtake, with a lot of focus on made in India and the manufacturing and self-reliance. I think that's been a great uptake in terms of lending, in terms of manufacturing, and I believe we need to find the balance. This is my personal take, that we moved from a predominantly savings economy with a Hindu rate of growth to a majorly lending manufacturing economy, losing probably the balance of savings for the long term and investing from a manufacturing perspective. I think we need to find the balance, and that's where I believe life insurance comes in. Life insurance is probably the only instrument available today with a focus on long-term returns.
Absolutely.
So I think that is where the balance would fall. We need to move towards a balance.
I can't agree more on that point, Vishakha, and straightway coming to Dr. Prakash is that, with so much of activities around all the 3 streams of saving, lending and risk coverage for everyone, you indeed need right set of coverages for the people who will run all that. India, everybody talks very big around the demographic growth, and they say that we have been lucky that we have the young population and all of that. Now the challenge that we also see that there's so much of faith in terms of how much Almighty can give in terms of coverages. India is not adequately covered, and we are lucky to be in a country where possibly the healthcare charges are one of the lowest in the country, right? Or amongst the countries in the world. What are your thoughts in terms of 2 things? A, how do you ensure really health coverages can be given to the country? And beyond the schemes and subsidies, is there something that people who are putting in their hard-earned money into coverages, they also make some money?
Yeah, it's a nice question. See, the demographic dividend is definitely a boon for health insurance sector. And given that life expectancy is increasing and per capita income is on the rise and modern diseases, corporatization of hospitals, advancements in healthcare, and more awareness on health, all these things are going to drive health insurance business, no doubt about it. But how the industry is geared up to take leverage of these benefits is the million dollar question today. Because the keynote speaker was beautifully, he was talking about the transformation done by UPI. Whatever the transformation that happened in the payment and lending area, I can say from my limited experience, not even 5% is happening in the healthcare space. So there is a lot that need to be done. If you look at UPI, the deep-rooted history, when there was an initial talk in 2006 with the SBI, I was told that the bank was spending around 70 rupees for a customer to service him when he comes for a withdrawal.
Great
Then
point.
with the introduction of ATM, it became 12 rupees. Then with the introduction of credit card, it became 2 rupees per customer. But the fear of abuse and fraud with credit card was 4% at that time. Then they introduced the one-time payment. Now UPI, 75% of the payment is happening through UPI.
Super point.
It's a great transformation. And I'm earnestly looking forward to that happening in the healthcare space. And my final statement, if I want to say, the UPI market share, if I look at the market share, 95% is by non-banks. I stop here.
True, very true, very true. Can't agree more. And probably one industry that has really revolutionized all this. And I heard the earlier speaker was talking about financial inclusion. Very, very valid point. On that, I think in terms of empowering the customer on mutual fund business, I see maximum amount of innovations happening. I see real growth happening, and India truly believes on the story of making savings something like a behavior. And would like to know, Mr. Balasubramanian, in terms of the next growth, where do you see the industry going? This is one industry which operates with a very low margin, very successful run, but how do you really create differentiator for the common people? Do they really understand what is a momentum, what is a flexi, what is this, what is that? Too many jargons there. So how do you demystify?
So this, I think MF industry has done a revolution. So that's what I would say. Because we are the perfect intermediary between the saver and market and provider of capital. So we are the largest provider of capital for the rising Indian economy. We give equity capital, we give debt capital. So we are the largest investor in the market. Because of the public savings have been coming into the mutual funds. And this challenge we always used to have. One of the discussions we used to have, I think you talked about innovation. The mutual funds is subject to market risk. Everybody knows about it. But we say it loudly. We say it more loudly. Then people used to think that mutual funds subject to market, therefore I will not come. But at the same time, he has to, of course, invest in mutual funds for the purpose of creating longer-term wealth. He's known very well. The long-term economic growth will always grow at about 7.5-8%. Compounding effect is very large. Then how do you communicate this?
Absolutely.
Thanks to SEBI, we did a collaborative initiative. Since the purpose of Mr. Ranjan, I'm mentioning about this. The mutual fund Sahi Hai was created. We said that we have to have some messaging that mutual fund is a good vehicle for savers to invest in capital market through the mutual funds, whether it is in equity or debt. So the narrative got changed. That was in the year 2014, 2016 we introduced this. In the 2012, thanks to again SEBI and AMFI and as industry player, we kept aside the equivalent of CSR from our profit margin, from mutual fund profit margin, though we have least profit margin, but still out of the profit margin we kept aside 2 basis points to be kept aside only for the purpose of increasing the financial literacy in the country. The amount that we spend every year on a 55 lakh crore size, 2 basis points, is almost about 1100 crores we spend only on promoting mutual funds, increasing the financial literacy in the country.
Agree.
That has done wonders in taking mutual funds to every household in the country. With respect to the schemes, there used to be no segregation of schemes in terms of how do you define the scheme's nature. If I say large cap, can the definition be the same as large cap for everybody or can differ? There used to be a time where it can differ from individual to individual. Somebody will say large cap definition is different from the other persons. Therefore, we brought in a uniform practice, uniform definition, that every industry players will speak the same language. Large cap means single definition, mid cap means single definition, flexi cap means single definition. They brought in uniformity. Such uniformity, high disclosures, more awareness creations, making people realize you are coming for long term. The power of compounding is very powerful. That is the way today mutual fund industry has got almost about 5 crores unique investors and 55 lakh crore size. And out of 55 lakh crores, 30% is the dominant asset class from equity, which is never seen in the country, where fixed income always used to be a dominant asset class. Whereas equity has become a dominant asset class because the cult of investing in equity has gone up quite significantly. Often the question always comes whether the common man actually is taking a risk. At the end of the day, as long as the investment being promoted as investing for the longer term, then the question of risk of short term doesn't arise. So that's the way I think industry has done a great job.
Good to know that.
And since you mentioned about where we'll go, given the fact that awareness has been rising and interest rates are stable and no other alternate investment opportunity also today India offers for a better compounding, therefore mutual fund remain as one of the powerful vehicle even the days to come.
Let me come back on that. I want to double click on that. But quickly shifting gears into fueling the business growth, and I think lending has been playing a great role out there. And gone are the days when people used to think that if you need to start a business, you actually need to have a lot of funds to start with. I think a lot of startups, a lot of new age promoters are getting into the field. So what are your thoughts into fueling the growth? Because if India has to grow, all these new people who are coming to the fore with new business ideas, innovations, disruptions, and how do you underwrite all that? How do you measure the success? Good to know that.
Thanks. I think it is important that Bharat will drive India. And I think we have to be very clear that the growth of tier 3 to tier 5 towns actually is the place which actually requires. And it requires micro entrepreneurship, if I were to really put across. And I think in that segment, those which are unserved, underserved, and unbanked. And just to give you a data on that, I think the contribution of micro MSMEs is 30% of GDP, whereas the bank credit going is around only 5%. So there's a huge gap which is there. I think it's important, other than the banking sector, which is the NBFCs and HFCs and as Aavas, really to focus and help those segments which are there, which is basically the assessment kind of cash flows and then giving credit to them. And as we speak, Aavas is one of the pioneers both in the housing side as well as on the micro MSME. We're one of the few HFCs or the only HFCs in India to have done micro MSME, which is basically helping the startup at the micro enterprise level where you do not have the fund available or you do not have the wherewithal which is there. And as we speak, we have new to credit around 15 to 20% and new to mortgage basically about 40%. So I think the need of the hour really is the capital, gross capital formulation happening in the productive assets really to push and pull up the GDP overall at a perspective. Both I see as Aavas, which is there in 350 branches, 13 states, and serving the unserved, underserved and unbanked in tier 3 to tier 5 towns. Housing as one of the main, again, self-construction individual homes, which really has a big multiplier impact on revenue generating activities and industries, so to say, and plus the micro MSME part. And again, therein really to look at technology, which has really played a very important role. The Digital India Drive, the digital public infrastructure, as we talk, the India Stack, OCAN, ONDC, and when we have about 1 crore 90 lakh of Kiryana guys on the network, how do we go and service them? What is that is required? So I think it requires.
I think that's a great point. I want you to also talk about probably when you are analyzing the credit risk part of it. Are you getting enough technological support, data support from the broader ecosystem?
Yeah, I think things have changed and things have changed manifold. I think the biggest realization in last 3 years at Aavas and with us is that Bharat is more digitally literate than it was earlier times. The India Stack, which helps us across to really help in the activities which were there earlier, which used to take a lot of time for like the KYC verification and stuff, which has got automated. A lot of stuff which has got automated, which helps you to get you the information much faster, whether it is UPI, whether it is, and various other platforms which really help. I think the important part is that how do you use technology in that segment to facilitate those parts. And as we speak, we are looking even at customer approach, which is using a multilingual WhatsApp chatbot, really to
We'll come to the customer part in the second phase. Let me go to Vishal in terms of Uberization of insurance, right? Do you think that country is really supporting that kind of concept? You are getting enough support from the regulator, industry, other players, analysts, investors. What's your thought? You are deep into action into that.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I think it's a great question, and if you think about, I think few of the points touched by my fellow panelists are important here. I think India has the best digital public infrastructure. That's a fact, right? And if you think about, I think the fact is that the next wave of growth has to come from tier 2 and tier 3. So it is super important that how do we kind of, bring in that customer obsession and centricity to be able to kind of take the product and make it very simple enough for them to kind of, buy. One of the biggest challenges, if you think about, is the complexity of the product. Typically in insurance, it has been said that, it's a push product, it's not a pull product. But as if you think about, awareness is increasing. People do understand the need of insurance. COVID also definitely told that, what is required. So there are two things which are required for, the actual Uberization to happen or actually the scale to achieve. One is definitely in terms of, what Doctor said, is in terms of improving the digital public infrastructure on the insurance side. What we've seen on payments and what you have seen on the other aspects of it, I think insurance, there is some catch-up to do. And there are lots of things which are happening on that side. So that's one thing. The second thing, if you think about, is typically due to the ticket size, right? Typically, the underserved or the people who need the most are not catered to because it does not make ROI sense from a, effort to returns. But with the digital infrastructure in place, with public becoming digital savvy, everybody having smartphone, I think the burden is on us as a group to be able to kind of create products which are simple and then take them to, in their language, in simplistic forms, and then basically increase the adoption.
Great. Vishakha, quickly coming to you in terms of digital transformation, investment in technology, and thus taking the product more friendly to the customer, and we want to our customer in this particular round of questions. Do you think that whatever you have put in terms of your technology cost or a digital transformation cost, you are getting ROI for that, your shareholders are getting larger value, are you earning customer loyalty out of that? Your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. And just to respond to Vishal, I think it's an interesting point that's being made in terms of penetration of insurance into the 3-tier and 4-tier. From whatever data that I have received from microfinance organizations and from Southern and the rest of them, apparently there is 96% coverage of all microinsurance loans, micro loans through Credit Life. Okay. We can leave a lot of questions on that in terms of what are the rates being offered, what are the commissions being made. We'll leave that out. I'm just focusing on the coverage itself. And yes, I think micro loans are being covered aggressively, which was why in the opening statement I was talking about the fact that we're moving away from being a savings led economy to a loan led economy. And I think we need to figure and focus on that. That's a valid point. As far as the question that you asked on digitalization, I think it's very important. And I think that's really helped us. If you look at PMJJBY, the entire portal has been set up by the government and which is at a macro level. It's a national level. Can I come back to the question? Maybe you can ask someone.
Sure. Dr. Prakash, coming back to the customers related questions, and
You already made choking for Vishakha. Take care of me.
That's a great one. There was so much emotion there. Yeah, of course. I can relate to that, Vishakha, definitely. Dr. Prakash, in terms of the customer experience which has got created, and I think I keep telling about this, that the cashless and OPD, some of the great innovations happening in health insurance, margin on the product is going down. And I keep getting these questions from my friend from abroad who are looking at this market in terms of investing in health insurance. They have a lot of rosy pictures in their mind. Do you think health insurance has got a great ability to scale profitably and driven by the customer experience? Are you really getting a change in terms of customer loyalty?
Yeah, it's a very sensitive question on profitability of health insurers, because in India, incidence of the disease is increasing and payment to the hospitals is unlimited. There is no standardization of cost. So given this context, profitability in health insurance, and particularly when customers cross the waiting period, standard exclusion clauses, pre-existing diseases, they are prone for claims from day one.
Absolutely.
And modern advancements are also like, what used to be done by open technique was moved into laparoscopic, and now they are trying to do robotic. And advancements in robotic and innovative surgeries are a big boon. But what was done at 100 rupees, now it is costing 250 rupees or 300 rupees. And majority of the people are buying high sum insured policies. So naturally, they are going to opt for the modern innovation. So this is all going to push the cost. Whereas naturally, as you are trying to say that, we cannot increase the premium for that. We have to increase our efficiency, as he was talking about, how to digitalize, how to cut on fraud, abuse, leakage. That should be the focus and not just increasing the premium alone. But 100% cashless can be a very fantastic effort. We should appreciate the regulator for coming with this move, because it can do away with lot of fraud, abuse, leakage. Abuse meaning that while fraud has to be mitigated, overcharging or abuse has to be controlled.
Sure.
But there is no regulator. There is no regulator for healthcare. So with this 100% cashless, things are going to be very transparent. A health insurer is going to have the diagnosis and the treatment. They are going to validate the treatment, look at the cost, and if there is a necessity, go back to the hospital, talk to them, negotiate, and finalize, so that they don't end up paying more. And there is least chance of fraud happening. So to the customer, he gets the money when he goes to a hospital. To the hospital, they get the cashless settlement. So more and more of hospital promoting insurance turnover, and to the insurer it keeps away fraud and abuse. So 100% cashless, as you are trying to ask me, it's a very good boon to the industry. But there are some challenges because the industry is not matured, and every stakeholder is looking at profit. Now today you are asking about investment in insurance, but investment in hospitals are growing. And naturally, it will get self-regulated and auto-corrected. And we are waiting for such changes to happen. So, finally, to answer your question, how are insurers going to see the market? Insurance is a game of large numbers. So, only thing is, hardly 6% of the population have a retail insurance today. Very easily, given the affordability, if it increases fourfold, from 6 to 24%, given the large numbers, insurers should be able to be more inclusive and also keep away from losses and probably see some profit.
Thank you. We need to have a rapid fire round, and in terms of managing the time, 2 questions for you is that, what are the 2 steps that you are taking in terms of attracting Gen Z towards investment, mutual fund or whatever? And do you see that technology playing a role out there in terms of the point that Vishal said in connecting people and all of that?
Sure. I think definitely the digital infrastructure which has been created like UPI has played a larger role in reaching out to customers, both Gen Z, even the bottom of the pyramid, to subscribe as low as about 100 rupees in SAP. So that's something has now become the new norm. Since PhonePe is here and they are one of the bigger partners for us as well, and partners like PhonePe, Grow, the digital platforms have done actual revolution in reaching out to the youngsters. So Gen Z, the people who have just come out of the colleges, even they have actually started using these apps for investing. UPI has played a big role. Today is no more the NABH, no more the RTGS, and
His experience and
something
simplification.
yeah, that something has come. Ease of doing business
Super.
has become one of the big mantra for even mutual fund industry today.
Super.
Yeah.
Coming to lending, is it like something related to the ease of lending, or how do you really want to pull in new set of customers into that? Is it spreading of awareness? Do you think financial literacy around lending is enough? Do you think somebody is playing a role? New set of customers.
New set of customers basically are the one who do not have a formal access to credit. And at Aavas, our forte has been to identify those which are not being touched, not because of the reach, but because of the kind of informal incomes which they get in, which are typically assessment based. I think triangulation of that and finally working out a cash flow and really go across, helping him to form a P&L which helps him to really base his cash flow and then work out for whatever his requirement is for a loan. Now that loan can be purpose of building a house, which actually has as a multiplier for that. And if it is for working capital for his micro MSME needs, we are there. I think that is where the actual innovation lies, and innovation lies for Aavas is that how do you use, how are we using, as we've underwritten more than 4 lakh plus of customers and more than 25,000 crores which we have disbursed across length and breadth of India.
It's okay.
We have a certain good amount of data, wealth of data. How do we really use that and develop BREs or business rule engines, which help us to really find out those customers, to help them serve faster, to price that, to maintain that, and to help them in their journey. I think technology is playing a very important role in those sites which are there. And typically, I'm saying that the locations and the places where the banks are present there as a brick and mortar, but the lending on that side is still not accessible by them actually. So I think that strata is the one which we really focus on, and that's been endeavor, and using technology to make it much more efficient, much more reliable. And I think the next important part as Aavas we look at is from a governance, from a regulatory side. I think it's important from the perspective of the data privacy laws which are coming across, from the perspective of the cybersecurity risk, the IT risk, the whole risk which we have to envisage. I think we've only looked at risk only from one perspective of the customer risk, but the cyber and the IT risk which is there. I think technology at that also helps us in that journey.
Thank you. Vishakha, can you complete your point on?
Yeah, no, thanks. I think, both the pros and cons of technology and digitization have been covered, and you just have to go and put one Google to understand that. I think the challenge, and perhaps I'm calling out the elephant in the room in terms of the entire fiasco of Paytm. I think that's where the challenge is. There was a movie which I had seen long back, where a man who's alive is running pillar to post to prove he's alive because his relatives have created documents which say he's dead. Okay?
Wow.
I think now we are in the position where we're saying we've got documents to say that this is the person, but we have no evidence to say that this person exists. I don't know if somebody can go with all my documents as Vishakha and become Vishakha. And if the regulator ever says, prove to me that your customer Vishakha, show her to me, and I don't think we're able to show. I think we are in that very peculiar situation now where we have digital identities and we don't know if there are real identities behind that digital identities.
That's a great point. Superb. Thank you. Coming to the point on getting new set of customers and creating a real breezy growth on the platform business, what are the
I think if you think about, right, India has a demographic advantage, and that advantage plays out even in the business side in terms of if you think about Gen Z and below, there are plenty of customer base. So it's a gold mine we are sitting on. That's point number one, right? And if you think about, there are three main reasons where basically you'll be able to do a very good adoption on the insurance side. One is Gen Z definitely doesn't have a hangover of joint families, right? We have seen joint families for quite some time, which used to provide some bit of cushion to in terms of the exigency scenarios. But Gen Zs are generally nuclear families, and they know that they need to be covered, so they need to be protect themselves. Second is definitely if you think about, they are far more tech savvier, so generally they understand technology much better. And third, the most important part if you think about is the generally their ability to adopt, right, or their ability to kind of understand and demand certain specific features, which will basically push the industry to innovate beyond what has been done so far. And I think combination of all these three factors will play out really, really strong in favor of, the acceleration, and it will act as a catalyst of growth.
I think we couldn't have ended the panel in a better note than this. Great to see the confidence, the passion, and obviously their pursuit towards excellence in ensuring that we definitely pioneer the next wave of growth in BFSI. The last point that I wanted to add, India is a large country and we keep talking about the demographic dividend. I think BFSI can create the largest amount of employment opportunity in this country. Thank you so much for your candid inputs. Appreciate that. Back to you.